Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. For those of you who are new here, I pray you find value in at least one thing I say today. And to my old and faithful returning crew, you know just how much I appreciate you. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. A few Christmases ago, I was in one of the worst states a woman would want to be during the holiday season. I had lost, I want to say close to like 10 pounds, 7 to 8 maybe. And I was donning a perpetually swollen face, particularly in the eye area, maybe for like 3 months because of all the crying that I was doing. I ate Pilates for breakfast, kettlebells for lunch, and I had long walks in the dark with my dog at night for dinner. We still do that though, but my body was physically aching nearly daily because I was in such a high state of stress and depression. It just made itself manifest in my body. And man, the heartbreak that I had sustained shifted so much in my mental and emotional life. I remember traveling home for Christmas to see my family and just being so numb to the Christmas spirit around me. I had never experienced a depressed Christmas. I'd never experienced being sad around that holiday time like this one. And all I wanted to do was just disappear, honestly, because it was hard to substitute in the feeling of joy when it really wasn't within me at the time. Experiencing how juxtaposed I was during this time and feeling one thing but experiencing another thing was so strange because I had not actually ever experienced the Christmas blues, like I said, like the depression. And during this season, I was also juggling so many things. It wasn't just the fact that my heart had been broken and my life had kind of just completely seemed like it was flipped on its head. I was actually working a lot, which is a blessing. It was a blessing in hindsight, and I saw it very quickly, but in the midst of it, work was almost like a depression reliever. I was on set so much doing stunts for one of the biggest TV shows that I've done before. And I was stunt doubling Deborah Ayarinde, if you guys know who she is. She's an amazing actress, so beautiful, wonderful woman. And I was doubling her for like this season, and it was literally so good. It was such a good time in my life for that. And also the worst time in my life. During this time, found myself in my trailer during the shoots, curled up, crying before having to go face everyone, crying before going to see the makeup artist and the hairstylist, crying before putting on wardrobe. And then once I was able to do that, I could suck it up for the hours that I needed to and do art, the thing that I love to do: acting, stunts, writing, speaking. It's amazing how even when you're living the life that you want, that God has given you, and He has, you know it's a blessing, you know where you're meant to be, but your heart is sick or your mind is sick, it taints everything. It taints the experience altogether. Nonetheless, I was on and off set so much. I was, I think in ways saved because I was on set. My sanity had a break because I got to go into the imaginary and forget about what mattered most to me and worry about what mattered most to these characters. And my grief didn't matter in those moments, of course. I was traveling out of state on different projects, working with some really big production houses and really experiencing the red carpet being rolled out for me. I was auditioning a ton out of my hotels, like, because I was just moving and shaking, okay, during this season. And God truly set me up for so much success later on in the midst of that trial. It reminds me a little bit about when God told his people to keep building in the midst of their slavery in Egypt, and to keep building, right? God had provided a means for me to keep building in the midst of this emotional entrapment. I was balancing grief and sadness, and because the world cares so little about that, like, you got to keep pushing, right? You have to still work. The show must go on. And it did. And I will never forget, before, things really started to kick up with all the work and stuff. And this isn't just about my work, but my work, was a really big through line, because it took me out of the grieving. It took me out of the house and out of all the stuff that was going on. But I will never forget my dad telling me to leave this set of really nice pots and pans that he had bought for myself and my ex. He bought it like well before the breakup, and it was a gift. And this pot set was like $500,000. It was like a lot of money. And he told me to leave it. He told me to just leave them all. Don't take them with me, to just leave with the things that I absolutely needed to leave with. And I did. And so when I moved into my new apartment, it was also during the Christmas season, December 2nd, actually. It was right in the middle, not in the middle, but right in the beginning, I guess, of the Christmas season, and definitely in the middle of the holiday season. And I was just riddled with so much that I couldn't even sharpen my focus on the reason for the season. Celebration of the joy that is coming to the world in the form of God's Son, Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. And yet, even though I couldn't focus, God remained with me through all of this. And I really saw some of it in the midst. Actually, I saw a lot of it in the midst, but in hindsight, when I look back at that, I'm like, oh my Lord, to know how God cared for me during that time when I didn't have enough for me to care for me. When I didn't have the strength to focus, he remained with me. When I didn't have the strength to keep the tears down, this wonderful counselor, this comforter came to me. When I didn't have the foresight of what would come, I didn't know. It's like I was looking at apartments and trying to manage that, and being on set and crying my tears and eating nothing, just withering away. Oh my gosh. God comforted me. I was just living in the present of these very difficult circumstances, and Jehovah Jireh came and provided for me. He provided the right people to come and help me to kind of build myself in the midst of this emotional entrapment, this emotional Egypt. He provided the right provisions for me financially to set me up for years. When I say years to come, I literally mean that. The jobs that I had during that season still pay me more in the residuals than I make working my day job for 2 weeks. One paycheck. I praise God. He knew. I praise God. He knew exactly what I was going to need to break away and sustain myself and live in obedience. He knew, even though in the moment I wasn't able to experience that joy, right? He knew who to send, right? And I was, man. Anyway, one last moment that will stay with me for, I think, the rest of my life was going to my parents' house over Christmas time. I think it was literally like for the holiday. And yeah, because I was off, I I only was working on set. I was only acting and doing stunts. I wasn't doing anything else at the time. I didn't have a third job or a second job or whatever. I didn't do that until the following year, I think. So I did have some time, not a lot of time, but I did have some time. So I was able to go home, and I will never forget going home for Christmas and my parents gifting me with another set of pots and pans. Same brand, which I absolutely love this brand. And it was a brand new set, and I didn't even think it was even more. And it's just this humongous box. My dad gave me some serveware and silverware and cutlery, etc. And for me to take back to my apartment that was empty. This couch wasn't even here then. I didn't have this couch. I had nothing. I had my bed and my clothes. And I come back with this big box, and suddenly I just remember bringing all of my things inside, all of these things that I didn't have before, into my new empty apartment that I'd only been in for a couple weeks, right? And I remember bringing that big old box of pots and setting it on the kitchen floor, and I just wailed. I sat on the floor. I was straddling the box and huddled over the box, and I just cried. I looked at it, and I was so grateful for my parents. I was so grateful to the Lord. I was so grateful for the people that he had put in my life at that time that came and covered me. My best friend, just came and covered me during this time. And I looked at God's kindness and his gentleness, how he handled me through this season, how he ushered so many things into my life that would help me out of this emotional bondage, but not even that would carry me for years to come. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about finances, job opportunities in the midst of Egypt. And I know this is a sad Christmas story. Samson's coming out. I guess he wants to tell part of the story. He was there. He knows. I cried though. I cried over this set of pots, and I thank God for the provision that he has given me through, so many people. And it's not about the things, but I didn't have anything. So for him to just make sure I did, man, it was great. And then, there was even times I couldn't even recognize myself in the mirror. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is that girl? Because she's so skinny and frazzled and frail and swollen. Oh my gosh. He sent my friends, he sent my family, mentors, help in troubled times. My church had just come here to Atlanta. I mean, there were so many things that happened all at once, and God knew. He knew. He allowed these people to come and stand in the gap for me when I didn't have it to find the joy and focus on the joy. When I didn't have enough for myself, they stood in the gap and had enough for me, and I thank God for them. Jesus did it. He did it once. He did it twice. He's done it so many times. He has saved me so many times. And so never can I forget the testimony. I have to remember to remember, Anyway, I pray that this was a little bit of a different Christmas story. It wasn't as fun as the last one, but I do pray that my testimony, just in sharing, just the small bits, I try not to talk too much about that stuff anymore because, my life is so different now. God has ushered me into a new space with him, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be healed of that. But I do understand that everyone is not here, right? Or someone's getting ready to go through something and they're going to need that encouragement. I just encourage you to trust the Lord with all of your heart and try not to lean into your own understanding. Trust him, because where he's taking you, if you follow, provision will be there, joy will be there, peace will be there. And obviously, I want that for you. It's hard when you're in the midst of it. It's hard to see it and believe it when you're in the midst of it. It's hard to focus enough to find the joy, especially the reason for this season. And I hope that you have people who are standing in the gap. But if you don't, I pray that this channel can be that for you. Anyway, thank you guys so much for loving yourself first, so you can then go and love your neighbor. I think tomorrow's episode will be a little happier. Have a good one.